All right, welcome back. Welcome back. It's good to see everybody again. I've had a lot of comments and, people been contacting me after the last episode about our gun control debate and kind of the legal issues behind it. So I'm excited to follow up on all of the comments and suggestions and things like that. One of the things I always like to do is have a grammar tip really quick. Okay, as a lawyer, when I'm reading things, especially if something is submitted to the court and whatnot, it always irks me when I see something wrong. One of the things I've noticed is this whole, how in the good old days, you'd be like, my brother and me went to school. And then someone would be like, oh, my brother and I, right? So here's the deal. You have to use the and I if it's the beginning of the sentence. So my brother and I went to school. However, what I've noticed is people will say something like, yes, that is acceptable to your father and me, right? That is the right way to say it. But when some people then at the end of the sentence, they'll say something like, that is acceptable to your father and I. That is actually, that's wrong, okay? At the end of the sentence, you would use the words your father and me. Something that irks me a lot more is when big companies kind of screw over the consumers. And I always love going after big companies. And one such campaign against a big company is Coinbase. If anyone's used Coinbase, I'm now representing a bunch of clients going after Coinbase. They had these very sketchy pricing and sales advertising for people that were buying cryptocurrency. And so anyway, if you've used Coinbase, let me know and I can explain it in more detail. The good news is I won't bug the rest of the listeners that were not using Coinbase or not buying cryptocurrency. Speaking of currency, another thing, what the heck, the Russian ruble, it is now worth a lot more, the Russian currency, the ruble, than it was before they invaded Ukraine. Okay, so let me get this straight. The Russian ruble is worth a lot more now, so it's actually gained strength in trading since the invasion of Ukraine. So I started looking into it, like, well, why the heck is that? What's going on is they're still buying Russian oil and Russian exports, right? And so Joe Biden making a big deal is like, oh, we'll send $1 billion to Ukraine. Maybe we'll send $1 more billion to Ukraine, this and that, right? But every single day, the Russians are selling about $1 billion or $1.5 billion of oil a day, okay? That's in addition to their other exports. So it doesn't really help. It's almost like, someone attacks your house and then you say to them, wait a minute. You look kind of hungry. Do you want me to feed you dinner first? And then we could move on with the attack. So that is what's going on there. I think that the foreign policy is not, and then Joe Biden will say things like, okay, we'll give them certain weapons, but not real weapons that really will help them. So I don't understand. It's just all it's doing is prolonging the war. It's kind of like we got to make a decision. Do we want to help Ukraine or not? Right? I think the worst thing to do is just to kind of like help them little by little so that it's just destroying the country a little bit more or taking longer. And now that the ruble is worth so much more than it was before, it's just, the whole sanctions idea it doesn't seem to be working very well. All right. So that being said, let's talk about the legal issues with assault rifles and guns, something on everyone's mind, it seems like. And I thought about it this morning. I dropped off my daughter. She's in the 3rd grade. She just turned 9 years old. And I dropped her off at school, and there it was. There was a police car, black and white, sitting right outside the school with 2 police officers. And it looks like, she said ever since the school shooting in Texas last week, there's been police officers at the school, and it's every day now. So look, I felt a lot safer. I know a lot of the parents. I haven't heard any parents complaining about that extra kind of security measure. Now, I just want to come out and say, in terms of from the legal aspect, I just don't see anything working in terms of trying to legislate or restrict guns. I just don't see it working. Okay, don't get me wrong. In a perfect world, nobody would have guns, right? Nobody, and everybody would get along, and everything would be cool. All right. Obviously, I would love that, right? I think most of us would love that. And then we get to the reality. The reality is it's impossible. Okay, and I just don't see. I think at this point in the country and in our lives, I think we should just say, fudge it. Gun control is just not gonna work. All right. There was a comedian that I watched one time, and he said something that's true and funny, and I looked it up, and it's been a saying for a while. I don't know why it's not as popular as it should be, and that is, the people with guns do not listen to people without guns. All right. So the last thing I think we're going to be able to do is pass a law saying, okay, everyone give back your guns. I mean, there's something like potentially 400 million guns in circulation in America, according to some experts, right? And the gun manufacturers make another million guns a month or something. That's just the domestic gun manufacturers. So I don't see anything happening that would get guns out of circulation. All right, I think it's true. Somebody without a gun telling somebody with a gun, give me back the gun. It's something that's not going to happen. And then the other reason why I don't see any sort of legislation working, last week what I discussed was the constitutional kind of restrictions about taking back guns and kind of restricting guns, things like that. And that was that the Second Amendment right to bear arms had the United States Supreme Court, not Joe Samo, okay? Some people were getting back to me like, oh, but I'm like, wait, none of these opinions were mine. They were literally the United States Supreme Court opinions, all right, that I was just telling. I laughed at the word literally, because remember last week I said you literally never have to use the word literally, ever. It's just not something that you need to say. Okay, so anyway, back to the subject at hand here. The AR-15, for example. Okay, so a lot of people are saying, why can't we just ban this, and why can't we ban assault rifles and things like that? Here's the reasoning that I think from the legal aspect that it's just impossible. First of all, a lot of people now could buy or make an AR-15, okay, without buying an AR-15. Let me explain. It is actually very easy, and it's legal and very cheap to just build your own AR-15. It's actually one of the easiest things to make. I am not even a handyman, and I pulled up all these do-it-yourself instructions. It's so simple. All you got to do is buy the parts, and all the parts are just some metal pins, springs. All right, and let me explain. So to build this AR-15, I looked at all these different sites, and I have some friends that have built it. Right, I have one friend that built it and said it's beautiful. He just bought all the parts, and he has a workable AR-15 that's not even registered, and it's all legal, because he bought it all legally. And he said, so even if they do pass a law taking back the guns, they don't know about this one. Okay. So what I mean by all of this is you buy this, the main part, which is called the lower. And it's kind of, you can see it here in the image. It's kind of the way I like to explain it, I guess it's like the chassis to a car, kind of the body. And then all you got to do is build around it. And it's so, in fact, if there's enough interest, maybe I should just buy the parts and just do it on the show everyone, here's how you build it. I'll do it if people really want me to, just to show how it's going to be impossible to get rid of these. Okay. So after you get the lower, which is like $100, you just buy these barrels. Okay. You buy the barrel nut, which kind of connects the barrel to the gun. You buy the, my goodness, it's really that simple. You buy a pistol grip, which is just kind of, that little metal, to hold the gun at the end. The trigger, the hammer is just a little metal piece. Okay. You buy this selector, which I'm going to figure out exactly what it is. It looks like you just need the Allen key to put that sucker in there. And then if you want to have a scope, you could have a scope. You could have a muzzle if you want to have that. And then certain things that you can get the little freaking the strap if you want, like the guitar strap. And that's it, more or less, okay? And then you have these do-it-yourself kind of pages and websites and whatnot. So really, and now it's even easier and easier with 3D printers. You could print a lot of these, and then you can make a whole gun almost from start to scratch, from scratch, just with a 3D printer. So I think at this point, I think it's the best as a way. It's okay. So what are we gonna do if we really want to curb gun violence? I think any politicians that are gonna say things like, "Oh, we need more gun control," or "We need." What do they say? Common sense gun laws. Then when I read what they have to suggest, it doesn't look like it's going to be, anything that's going to work. And the reason why it won't work, there's several reasons why it won't work. It won't work because one, a lot of times it doesn't pass the constitutional muster, which we talked about last week. So if you overly restrict gun access or gun possession or gun sales, you're going to have the problem of the Second Amendment, all right? And that's going in the Supreme Court of the United States, not Joe Samo, has ruled that the Second Amendment gives individuals the right to bear arms. It's not that it only gives the states the right to bear arms and have their own militia. It gives individuals that same right, okay? So they're going to have that problem, a lot of the politicians, when they say the things about the gun control. And then after that, they're going to have what I call the legal problems. All right. What I mean by that is a lot of times, when it comes down to drafting a law or making a law, the lawyers then read the law, right? I did one episode on the Don't Say Gay bill. And the reason why I said that is not going to work in Florida is that the definitions of how they kind of that the teachers have to follow and whatnot, it's so convoluted and there's so many exceptions that anyone they could easily kind of circumvent the idea of the law, right? And I think the same goes with the gun control. So for example, okay, let's see. So we go over like how easy it is to build these things. So what are you going to do? Outlaw springs, the metal springs. You're going to outlaw a barrel? That's impossible because it's impossible. They're out there. They're easy to make. They're easy to sell. And the other problem is they have a lot of other functions, right? So somebody could be selling and be like, yeah, this is for, whatever, your water hose, right? Or whatever it is. So the whole definition, and then when people say something like what irks me, and this irks me more than the grammar problems now, is when they say something like, we're going to ban assault rifles, okay? It is impossible to make sense out of that other than it's a good talking point, all right? And this is what I mean, okay, before everyone freaks out. This is what I mean. It's a good talking point. If I want to run for mayor or something, be like, I'm going to ban assault rifles because, it's pretty clear. A majority of people want that. Then we get into the specifics and the legalities and the definitions, okay? It turns out that it's really impossible to define an assault rifle. An AR-15, by the way, the AR does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite rifle, not assault rifle. But the reason why it's impossible, so a lot of people say, okay, we could define it by something that's like, like a semi-automatic. Semi-automatic is, you all you gotta do is pull the trigger and a bullet comes out. Pull the trigger, a bullet comes out. And then if you pull the trigger fast enough, you could punch out 10 shots or 15 shots a second or however fast you want to do it, right? And you could pull the trigger as fast as possible. Even, you could pull it just as fast as an automatic weapon, right? And the idea about the semi-automatic is now all the guns, small guns, large guns, everything, almost everything is semi-automatic. It's not very popular to build or sell a gun that, you shoot it and then you have to start from scratch and kind of reload it and everything before you take another shot. All right. So all of the guns are semi-automatic. And the other problem is they say, well, if it can, the bigger guns, okay? The problem with that is the smaller guns can be and are just as effective as the bigger guns, okay? So in essence, the size in a lot of respects doesn't matter, okay? Size doesn't matter. I think the producer Zeke is somewhere around here. He's gonna be happy when he hears that, right? Just kidding. Okay, the size doesn't matter in the sense that, okay, so here we go. So a lot of people think, okay, we could ban it by banning the size of the gun. All right, so let me explain why that's not gonna matter. The size does matter in the sense that some people say, okay, you could, just because it's bigger, you can kind of control it better. Okay, and so maybe that'll help you kind of with accuracy. Maybe if it's bigger, it doesn't recoil as much sometimes. Because there's a lot of energy that's kind of dissipated inside the gun before it recoils, so that it's a shooter could be more comfortable shooting a bigger gun than a smaller gun. And that's about it, in the sense that that's so if the ban on assault rifles, then the lawyers say, okay, well, how are we going to define that? So if then they say, well, the definition is just, if it's a large gun, if it's a semi-automatic gun, then, it doesn't make any sense. And then, the smaller guns will have just as much impact. All right. So then some people say, well, we could ban the size of the magazines, all right, which is the magazine kind of holds more bullets, and put in the gun so that you don't have to kind of keep reloading it. So some people say, okay, we could ban the size of that. That also is difficult because that's the easiest thing to modify is the size of the magazine. All it is you put the bullets in there and they have a spring that always kind of keeps pushing the bullets up so that after you shoot, just kind of like it puts it up into place. I apologize to all the engineers watching this. I know it's a lot more complex than that, or maybe a little more complex than that. I'm just giving you the lawyer's version, okay? So it has a spring that keeps the bullets kind of pushing up so that when you shoot it, it keeps them going up. So if you ban the size of that, okay, here's a couple problems. It's easy to just get a bigger one, okay? And it's easy to have a few of them, and they only take a second, if you take it off and put it back on. So I don't see that as being the answer as well, maybe somebody will say, oh, maybe it'll kill less people. Okay, I just don't see how. Or unless if someone's like, yeah, they shot off 125 shots in 3 minutes instead of 135 shots in 3 minutes. I don't know. I don't see that as being the answer to the gun control debate either. I think the definition of the assault rifle is going to be impossible for it to make sense. Even, and then I heard a lot, even in Canada. Okay, so Canada, there's all this hoopla, right? Right after the shooting in Texas in the elementary school, Robb Elementary School, Uvalde, Texas. So Canada, the prime minister comes out and says, we're going to ban, they called it, okay, I got the kind of the proposals from the Canadian bill, military style assault weapon. All right. Now, here's the deal. So they're going to ban military style assault weapons in Canada. Okay, I looked it up. I go, okay, what's the definition? And then the law says that they're going to define it later. Ciao. Okay, how is that going to work, Canada? I'm curious. I want it to. Everybody wants something to work, right? So, so they said something like, okay, we're gonna have this ban on military style assault weapon. That sounds romantic, right? So everyone's gonna vote for it, maybe. But then I went to read the definition. There's no definition yet. The reason why there's no definition yet is because this is going to be a freaking nightmare to try to debate, okay? For the reasons I just stated earlier. Then they have this other problem, which is that there's millions of guns already in circulation, okay? So what are they going to do there? They said, well, we'll give everyone uh, the prime minister said something like, we're going to give people time to get back the guns. Okay. Then he said 2 years. That's a long time, right? If somebody had a winning lottery ticket, they could bring it in about 5 minutes, right? So why is it going to take 2 years? Obviously, you know the answer, right? Because this is going to be a nightmare to try to implement. Let me see more about the Canadian bill. They're gonna make it a crime to modify a rifle, which I thought was kind of funny. I remember when I was a kid, my friend, when we first got cars, like 17, 18, 19, 20, the coolest kids, they said, yeah, my car, I got a chip. What do they mean by that? Had some sort of modification to make the car go faster, or some sort of modification to bypass the software that makes the car like artificially slow down or something, or makes it so the car can't go faster. So they put some sort of chip in there, they called it, that modified that. So anyway, so Canada will make some modifications to the rifles illegal. Hopefully that'll stop somebody that wants to do a mass shooting. I don't know. Maybe it will. We'll see. Okay. They want to increase the penalties for smuggling guns. I think that if there's already a massive penalty for smuggling guns illegally, so I don't know how if that increase will deter people from smuggling the guns illegally. I have a joke. There's a little lawyerly joke here. There was a criminal defense attorney walks into the office with all his buddies and stuff, and he pops open the champagne and he's all excited. Everyone looks at him and be like, "What the heck are you so excited for?" He's like, I won the appeal." And they're like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Remember, so-and-so client, he got sentenced to 5 life terms. 5 life terms. I won the appeal and we knocked it down to 4 life sentences." Right? So anyway, it's a lawyerly joke there, in the sense of trying to increase an already severe penalty. A lot of times, the people say it's not going to really help. Anyway, okay. So then it also says it gives the police authority to seize guns from individuals whom a judge has found at risk or hurting themselves. Is that not the law there? That's going to be the law. So if somebody, that should be the law already, right? Here in the United States, if somebody is at risk of killing themselves or hurting themselves, the police are allowed to take them in, right? Even against their will. So I don't know. I'm not sure what the deal is with that. In the United States, that's already also a law that if somebody's at risk of hurting others, especially if there's a targeted person or whatnot, they can file a restraining order. And then that restraining order, it's automatic in the restraining order that it would take away that person's gun. Okay. So what are we left with? Let's see. I went back and looked at the 1994 Bill Clinton proposed, and the Congress agreed. This was something that was done in 1994. It was not renewed. It was the assault rifle ban of the 1994. Okay. So some of that, let's see. So there was a ban on assault rifles in 1994. It excluded something like 700 type of guns, and those guns also included the semi-automatic guns. Then it excluded guns that could be used for hunting and recreational sports. Recreational sports being the disc practice, or the one where they shoot up the disc and they try whoever can shoot the disc first. All right, and those guns included certain Remingtons, Brownings, and Berettas that were just as powerful and semi-automatic and just as good, so to speak, as the AR-15. So even that ban, and there's been scores and scores of scholars that have debated how and what that ban has done, if it did help, because it only banned a few type of guns. And so what I say is okay, imagine, heroin being illegal, right? And then they say something like, okay, only certain types of heroin is illegal, heroin that's freaking, whatever. I don't know the different types of heroin. Sorry. I should have in retrospect researched that before today, but it would be crazy, right? This type of heroin is illegal, but this type of heroin is not. So anyway, even that ban allowed so many exceptions, and it had such a convoluted kind of definition to it. It did, maybe the one thing that made sense there is that it banned certain rifles that couldn't accept a large magazine. So there's some rifles that have they have some sort of, mechanisms in it that won't accept a larger magazine. However, what I found was that's easy to bypass it, by like very few modifications make it a lot easy, very, very easy to detach. So what are we left with? I think one measure that might make sense is the kind of upping the age. The Uvalde shooter was 18 on his 18th birthday. He purchased, the two AR-15s, and I don't know. The reports are different. It was something like maybe a 1,500 rounds of ammunition or 3,000 rounds of ammunition. So he bought all that on his 18th birthday, and it was all legal. It was at the nearby gun store. I do think, and the United States Supreme Court has said it is constitutional to have, these age limits. So raising the age to 21 as opposed to 18 is not unconstitutional. So I think that one would help. I think that's one of the few ones that I see helping. I don't want to call it a solution. Maybe a possible mitigating circumstance is the wait time. Okay, the United States Supreme Court has ruled that laws saying that there has to be a wait time to get a gun is constitutional. So if a state or federal government wants to impose like wait times, they are constitutional. I personally think, it'll help. I mean, I guess it'll help in the sense that, if somebody wants to commit like something that week, and if it can't wait, I guess then it'll help the wait time, right? And I don't know. I'm just a lawyer, so I'm just saying the legality, it is legal to have a wait time. Now if somebody wants to have a 1 week wait time, that would be constitutional. If it's a 2 week wait time, we're starting to push the limit. If somebody comes in and says, how about a 5-year wait plan? Nope, that would not be constitutional. So a 1 to 2 week wait time would be constitutional. The other possible solution or mitigating circumstance is the background checks. And there have been a lot of people that tried to get guns that got bounced because of background checks. Okay, so, and the United States Supreme Court has ruled that it is not unconstitutional to have background checks. So those are allowed. So that's another thing that we could add to the possible kind of solutions and mitigating circumstances is some, reasonable background checks. Obviously, if any sort of politician or someone says, here's a solution or offers a solution, I mean, it's impossible to be a solution, right? Because as you know, it's not like imagine a background check before you go buy cocaine or something like what is that? It's not going to help, dang it, right? So as a lawyer, I try to always stay within my expertise, right? And that's why I've kind of said everything about, okay, if it's not unconstitutional, then it's allowed. Then the question is it going to be effective or not? That's up for debate for people, not like myself, but I do think that why I was talking about the assault rifle ban is because from the legal standpoint, it's going to be impossible to implement it or to kind of have a very good definition. Okay. So today is June 1st and get this, like during our show, it's really sad. Our, the producer of the show, Zeke, he had to leave in the middle of this because he got a notification that his daughter's school is on lockdown because of a gun threat. Like, how did that happen? Like during the podcast itself. So he had to like rush out of here. We had to take a little break and come back. Obviously, I hope, my friend, that everyone at your daughter's school here in San Diego is safe and that it was, a false alarm, something like that. Obviously, that we hope for the best. And even my son's school and my daughter's school, the day after that Uvalde shooting, they were on lockdown too because of some sort of threat, And God, I do say please make it as illegal as possible to call in a gun threat. Okay. That one is definitely an illegal threat to make, and not something that's cool. Don't do it. Other than that, I think police at school may or may not help. The armed guard. God, it's such a daunting sight, though, to see an armed guard or a police officer at a school. But I don't know. I don't know how many other choices we have if we want to stop that. I'm not a big fan of arming teachers, just because unless they go through a lot of training, but gosh, the teachers already have to go through so much training, and I'm not sure arming them. Maybe if there's a few volunteers that are willing to do it and take a lot of training, maybe that'll help. All right. So I want to hear some more comments. I really did enjoy the comments over the week. I think that, it's going to be creative to try to figure out some solutions to this. If anyone disagrees, let me know how, especially if they disagree on how easy it is to build an AR-15. I really don't want to do it, but after I research it looked kind of fun. Maybe we'll just build it on the show. We'll get a couple friends and we'll just show you how easy it is. Not that I'm going to use it, but just to see if it is actually that easy and if it's going to be easy to try to legislate around it. All right. So, and again, as always, please, if you have any other legal questions and concerns, give me a call. My phone number is 619-672-1741. I absolutely love hearing from all of you. Especially I love hearing about the comments about the show and kind of what you agreed on and what you disagree on. And if anyone has creative ideas on how we can stop gun violence, let me know. I'd love to hear it. All right, good stuff. I'll see you next week.